Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the show. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show. All right, guys. Today I've got your running back rankings for Week 4. Now, you probably knew this, but these rankings were incredibly hard to make. The running back position has been wild so far. Lots of unexpected things have happened in this early fantasy season, and that's what makes fantasy football fun. But I'm going to be making sure that you guys have a firm understanding of how we should be valuing these players going into this week. So I'm going to start right here with the very first player on my list, and that's Christian McCaffrey. Now, Christian McCaffrey is the most sure thing in fantasy right now, right up there with Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. I mean, this dude is guaranteed production every single week. Elijah Mitchell finally started to see some work out of the backfield in this last game, but it's still Christian McCaffrey's backfield altogether. I mean, this dude gets almost all the work in the backfield. He definitely gets all the passing work between the backs. We know that this dude is an efficiency monster. He's been incredibly efficient so far, just like he has in his entire career. And he's now playing in a better offense than he's ever been in his entire career. So the touchdown upside is higher than it's ever been. This dude finds the end zone like every single week. He's almost a guaranteed touchdown, which is something that you can't rely on from very many players in fantasy. There's very few players in fantasy where you can go into the week and say, this guy has a very, very good chance of getting in the end zone. Christian McCaffrey's one of them. This dude's a monster. He's my number one. Next player on my list is going to be Tony Pollard against the New England Patriots. Tony Pollard is getting a bigger workload than I think a lot of us expected. And, I was quarreling with a lot of people over the offseason that were trying to tell me he wasn't a true workhorse. Well, the last 2 games, he's seen almost a combined 50 carries. So this dude is a true workhorse. He's getting all the work in the backfield. Very much deserved. This dude's been incredibly efficient in his career. He's been incredibly efficient this season. He gets targeted like crazy out of the backfield. This dude is going to be a PPR monster this season. Has the upside to be the running back one. Now, New England is a little bit of a tough matchup, but I don't think that New England is going to be a tough enough matchup to really hold Tony Pollard back behind what's a very good Cowboys offensive line. Obviously, they have some injuries, so we're going to have to see who's healthy on the offensive line going into this week. But regardless, I think Tony Pollard's going to be very efficient and have yet another good game like he's had in games 1, 2, and 3. Next player on my list is going to be Travis Etienne. This is a guy who has been awesome so far. I think there were a lot of people worried about Tank Bigsby coming into the season and him cutting into Etienne's workload. That's not the case. He's one of the few running backs in fantasy where, everything is there. The talent's there. The workload's there. He's pretty much getting all the opportunity in his backfield. And I still think that this is going to be a really good Jaguars offense, right? I mean, I wouldn't let the last 2 weeks scare us away. Travis Etienne has everything going for him. Against Atlanta, they're not really that good of a defense against the run, so Travis Etienne should be able to run all over them, and I really think that the Jaguars will be playing with the lead in this game. So that's going to mean even more volume for Travis Etienne. Next player on my list is going to be Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert's a running back one in fantasy right now, so you really can't have him on your bench. I would not, even if you have a loaded running back room, you have to find a way to have Raheem Mostert in your starting lineup. Even against a tough matchup against the Buffalo Bills, look, this offense is so fast, so explosive, has such good play calling that you really just can't have Raheem Mostert on your bench. I really think that this is going to be a matchup-proof offense. I think that Raheem Mostert is going to be a matchup-proof running back. Those are very rare, especially against defenses like Buffalo, but I think the Miami Dolphins are one of those matchup-proof offenses. And the reason for it is because they just have speed all over the field. We have Tyreek Hill. We have Jalen Waddle. We have 2 running backs in the backfield in Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert that run sub-4.4 40s and darn close to a 4.3 40. I mean, they're just so fast everywhere. They always set guys in motion. They're a very creative, modern-day offense that really just they use setting guys in motion to their advantage, and it just throws defenses off. Defenses have been having fits trying to cover Miami. I think that even a very good Buffalo defense is going to have a problem against them. And keep in mind that they're going to be dropping a lot of their defenders back to cover Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. This is going to open bigger running lanes for Raheem Mostert. I'm not scared of a tough matchup. You're starting this guy. Next player on my list is going to be DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift's going to be way higher in my rankings this week than anybody else has him, and I don't understand why. Look, this dude, since he has gotten the number one role in the offense in week 2, has been utterly unstoppable. He has the best yards per carry efficiency of any running back in the NFL. He's running behind what might be the best offensive line in the NFL, and he's matchup proof, right? Anybody running behind this Philly offensive line is going to be good. We saw a very average or maybe even under average running back in Miles Sanders run wild behind this offensive line last year. So I said this going into the season, DeAndre Swift, a significantly more explosive back, is going to be awesome behind this offensive line. My only concerns were, was he going to be able to head the backfield? And it looks like that's going to be the case. DeAndre Swift's going to be way higher in my rankings every week than most people have him until they figure out what the heck's going on. DeAndre Swift is a top 5 running back this week against Washington. Next player on my list is going to be Bijan. Disappointing week last week for Bijan, but I'm not too worried about it. This dude obviously has insane yards per carry efficiency, incredible talent. My only concern with Bijan so far really has been the workload. I mean, he's seen 39 carries through 3 games. That's not the workload we wanted. We wanted this guy to be a 20-plus carry per game running back. And so we have 2 issues with Bijan. We have the workload's not as big as we thought it was, and the offense sucks. So even though he's incredibly talented, even though he's getting a lot of work in the passing game as well, I just can't have him ahead of these guys that are in better offenses, running behind better offensive lines. I just can't do it. And a lot of these guys that have ranked ahead of him have been getting more carries than him. So even though he's supposed to be a guy that gets insane volume, it really hasn't been the case. But incredible talent, playing in what could be a high-scoring game. Could see a lot of passes out of the backfield with Desmond Ridder needing to find somebody to connect with in the passing game. I still have him high in my rankings, but he's my number 6. Number 7 is going to be Kenneth Walker up against the New York Giants. Kenneth Walker should be able to run all over these boys. I'm not too worried about it. Kenneth Walker, he's still kind of that home run hitter, boomer bust guy, as far as his yards per carry efficiency. Sometimes he'll only get 1 or 2 yards on a carry. Sometimes he'll get 60, right? So, that's kind of been the narrative for Kenneth Walker, but look, he's started to see more work in the passing game. Zach Charbonnet really isn't cutting into his opportunity share whatsoever. I'm actually very surprised that the Seahawks invested high draft capital in Zach Charbonnet and really aren't using him, but that's the case. Kenneth Walker heads this backfield. He's incredibly talented. You're starting him this week against the Giants. Next player on my list is going to be Kyren Williams up against the Indianapolis Colts. You want to start Kyren Williams, guys. This dude's been awesome this season. He's getting targeted heavily out of the backfield. He's seen 17 targets in the past 2 games, so he's running the ball. He's getting a lot of targets out of the backfield. His Rams offense is better than we expect. They ran into a little bit of a wall last week in the second half of, this last game that they played on Monday night, but I'm not worried about it. Kyren Williams is going to be good. Next player on my list is going to be Josh Jacobs against the LA Chargers. Josh Jacobs, the yards per carry efficiency has been terrible, but he finally has a good matchup. He's been going up against a lot of really tough defenses. We know how talented this guy is. If Alexander Mattison can run efficiently on the LA Chargers, Josh Jacobs certainly can, and I think he's going to have his first big week this week. Next player on my list is going to be James Cook against the Miami Dolphins. This is going to be a very high-scoring game. You want every bit of the offensive pieces on both sides of the ball, and James Cook, he's been awesome this year. He's been having games where he rushes for over 100 yards. He's been seeing some passing work out of the backfield. Obviously, we want the goal line carries to go up, but I think that's going to happen too because this dude has taken over this backfield, and it's a very high-scoring offense. It's going to provide him scoring opportunities. He's been very efficient. Getting tons of volume. He's the main back of the backfield, so I like James Cook. Next player on my list is going to be Zach Moss. Man, he has been awesome in the absence of Jonathan Taylor. Playing up against the LA Rams, he should be able to run efficiently against them, and there is a chance that the Colts are playing with the lead in this game, and so it could be a very favorable game script for Zach Moss. Next player on my list is going to be Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry against the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, the danger in this game is Derrick Henry and the Tennessee Titans falling behind early, and then Derrick Henry sort of getting phased out because we've seen it when they're behind, they tend to favor Tajay Spears because he's more of a pass-catching back. So, we want Tennessee to be playing with the lead, to be extremely confident in Derrick Henry, and that's ultimately becoming the problem with this offense is, we don't know if Tennessee is going to be playing with the lead very often, and then Tajay Spears ends up stealing a lot of his work. So, poor efficiency last week. The volume was down because they were playing from behind. I think they might be playing from behind in this game. I'm kind of hesitant on Derrick Henry, but you really don't want to have him on your bench. The ceiling is still too high. I think he's more of a flex option now than a running back 1 or 2, but you still have to have this guy in your starting lineup, probably at your flex position. Next player on my list is going to be Aaron Jones. Now, Aaron Jones against Detroit, he would be higher in my rankings, but 1, we're not even sure he's going to play. 2, will they limit his workload a little bit, considering the fact that he was a scratch this last week, and now he's only getting 5 days between the Sunday game and the Thursday game, right? So I'm just not really sure that he's 100% yet. If he does get on the field, they might be a little bit careful with him. We know the Packers are careful with their guys. They don't really like risking getting their players hurt. So considering the fact that they're doing okay without him, they might be extra careful, and they might not let him play this week. And if he does play this week, he might be a little bit limited. So we just have to be really careful with Aaron Jones. But if he is on the field, I am going to start him. Next player on my list is going to be Devon Achane. He's way higher in my rankings than everybody else has him. But I just believe in this Dolphins offense. And I don't think that you want anyone on this offense, any of the main weapons, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, the running backs, you don't want any of them on your bench. You really need to be starting them. If they come out and they give you a bust week, okay, but I'm not going to miss out on that Devon A-Chain ceiling, even against the tough Buffalo Bills defense. Next player on my list is going to be Alexander Mattison against the Carolina Panthers. Carolina has a piss-poor run defense. The only reason why I have Alexander Mattison higher than I would normally have him. At the end of the day, Alexander Mattison is not a talented running back, guys, but he is in a very good offense, and he's playing against a very, terrible run defense, right, in the Carolina Panthers. So I'm going to start out Alexander Mattison with confidence this week because I think he's going to do well by default because the defense sucks that he's playing against. They're probably going to be playing with a lead, and he's in an elite offense. It's going to give him scoring opportunities and passing work out of the backfield. So I like Madison this week. Next player on my list is going to be Miles Sanders up against Minnesota. Now, this is a point where I start to get a little bit concerned about the running backs. I'm pretty confident in my top 15, but Miles Sanders against Minnesota, right? They're probably going to be playing from behind. The Carolina Panthers are probably going to be playing from behind. Adam Thielen seems to be the main weapon in the offense. I don't think that Miles Sanders has any kind of ceiling this year at all. Now, the running back landscape is a little bit tough out of the top 15 guys, so I have him here at my number 16, but you do not have to start Miles Sanders this week. He's not a must-start. Next player on my list is going to be Alvin Kamara. Now, this is a guy going up against Tampa Bay that I want to have higher, right, because I think that he's got some serious upside in this offense. But we have Derek Carr injured right now. How is that going to affect the overall efficiency of the offense? Jameis hasn't started a game in like over a year. It's going to be Alvin Kamara's first game back. So how much are they really going to want to use him when he hasn't been with the team? He hasn't been playing. He hasn't been practicing with the team. We know that these things could very often end up being a complete mess for the player, right? We saw it with Deshaun Watson last year when he first came back and just looked absolutely terrible. Alvin Kamara hasn't been practicing. He hasn't been playing with the team. Right, hasn't been practicing, wasn't there in training camp. He was there in training camp, but he hasn't been practicing with the team over the last 3 games because of the suspension. This makes me a little bit hesitant to start him in his first game back. But if he has even a decent game in his first game back and is getting used more, I'm going to vault him way high up in my rankings. But he's my number 17 this week. Number 18 is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs at Green Bay. Jahmyr Gibbs has been very disappointing. It really sucks for people that had high hopes for Jahmyr Gibbs going into the season, but this last game he only had 2 targets. The game before he had 10 targets. So it's very hard to navigate really what's going on with Jahmyr Gibbs. Are they going to use him as a pass catcher like they said they were going to do? I don't know. It seems like this last game when Amon-Ra was playing banged up and there were some injuries to the offense, it seems like he would have gotten more than 2 targets. So that was a little bit disappointing, but we know that the talent is there. The talent for Jahmyr Gibbs is absolutely incredible. This is a very good running back. He's just not getting used enough, right? So it's kind of hard right now. I think he's more of a flex option than anything against Green Bay. Next player on my list is going to be Isaiah Pacheco up against the New York Jets. The Jets obviously have a tough defense, but I don't think they're going to be good enough to stop the Chiefs' offense. The Chiefs are another one of those offenses that they're pretty much matchup-proof because they have Patrick freaking Mahomes. They have Andy Reid calling plays. It's very hard to stop this offense. So I think that even against a tough New York Jets defense, I think the Chiefs will be able to move the ball pretty easily, and that's going to give scoring opportunities to Isaiah Pacheco. And Isaiah Pacheco is a very talented back who's always going to give you good yards per carry efficiency. Next player on my list is going to be Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford playing against Baltimore, running behind a great offensive line. He's got the world-class speed. He can break a big play at any point. Now, how much is Kareem Hunt going to cut into his opportunity share this week? That remains to be seen, and that makes him a little bit – I'm just slightly hesitant to start him because, he's not Nick Chubb, right? It's not like he's going to just come in and get the production that Nick Chubb was getting. And at the same time, how much is Kareem Hunt going to cut into his opportunity share? So I want to be careful starting Jerome Ford this week. He's definitely not a must-start, but he is a viable starting option if you need a flex. Next player on my list is going to be Joe Mixon against Tennessee. I do not like this matchup. I really don't. The only positive for Joe Mixon in this game is that he's probably going to be playing with a lead, right? So they might give him more volume to grind clock if they have a big lead in the game. But a tough Tennessee run defense. It's hard to run the ball on the Titans. And Joe Mixon has not been an efficient back for like the past 2 or 3 years. This dude is absolutely washed up. I hate to tell you, but he's not the same running back he used to be. So will the yards per carry efficiency be good against the Titans? I highly doubt it. So he's going to need to get lucky and score a touchdown or 2 to have good production in this game. But with the relatively tough running back landscape and very few workhorse running backs that get to head their backfield and get all the work, Joe Mixon's one of them. So by default, he's in my top 25. Next player on my list is going to be Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson has been really darn good this year, but a tough matchup against Philadelphia. I really don't like him all that much in this matchup. If you have him, you're probably starting him. I would look for a better running back 2 option, but he's definitely a very good flex option considering the talent and the opportunity share. Next player on my list is going to be Jaylen Warren. I'm going to have Jaylen Warren way ahead of Najee Harris. I said it in the offseason, Jaylen Warren's going to take over this backfield. Now he's getting 50% of the work in this backfield. He's going up against a Houston team that really does not have a very good run defense. So it's pretty easy to run the ball on the Texans. If Jaylen Warren gets to break a big play in this game and combines that with the touchdown, he can give you a really high ceiling, even splitting a backfield with Najee. I think he's a pretty decent play this week, but only as a flex. Next player on my list is going to be Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson's getting a majority of the work in the backfield. Zeke isn't as much of a factor as I thought he was going to be, but playing against a very tough Dallas defense, the Patriots are probably going to be playing from behind in this game. I really don't trust Ramondre to be that good, but what we do know is this. Game script really doesn't dictate whether Ramondre has a good game or not, because if the Patriots are behind, they're going to be passing the ball to Ramondre Stevenson a lot. So this guy's a target hog. So for PPR formats, the target share he's going to get out of the backfield allows him to be a top 25 running back this week despite having a tough matchup. Next player on my list is going to be James Conner. James Conner against San Francisco. I hate this matchup, but James Conner has been very good. The Arizona Cardinals offense has been a pleasant surprise. I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball in this game. I'm not going to lie. James Conner is by no means a must start this week, but he is definitely a serviceable flex option because he's heading his backfield altogether. He's getting all the touches in his backfield, and he has been very good. And the offense has been a little bit better than what we expect. So definitely a serviceable flex option, but don't expect a very high ceiling this week. And as far as your running back 1 and running back 2 slot, you should have a better running back option plugged into those 2 slots. All right, guys, appreciate you tuning into my video. Catch you later. Bye.